independents, members who are elected on an independent ticket to this Honorable House. Honorable Speaker, independent members of Parliament are elected pursuant to Article 85 and Article 99 of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, further, Article 103(e)(2) provides that the office of MP becomes vacant if an independent member joins a political party. Honorable Speaker, further, Standing Order 259(b) establishes the caucus of independent members as a coordination and advocacy platform to safeguard the interests of independent members of this House. Honorable Speaker, cognizant of the fact that independent caucus selected one of their members to sit in the committee of selection in order to protect, defend, and uphold the interests of the independent members of this House. Honorable Speaker, independent members are nominated to committee through the Committee on Selection as per Standing Order 173, which provides that the independent caucus of members of Parliament, which has been formally been recognized by this House, to submit names of their preferred committees. Honorable Speaker, concerned that the majority whip, in particular, has jurisdiction over members of the majority party and does not have authority on or jurisdiction over independent members who are not bound by the party's disciplinary or attendance guidelines. Honorable Speaker, acknowledging the importance of fair representation in committee assignments and the autonomy of independent members in the governance of parliamentary business, Honorable Speaker, in your direction issued yesterday, you ruled that what was before the House was reconstitution of committees rather than discharge of members. But, Honorable Speaker, be that as it may, can House committees be reconstituted without taking into account the interests of the names submitted by the caucus of independent members of Parliament? Honorable Speaker, I seek your ruling on the two following issues. One, whether in the process of reconstituting committees, the majority whip can remove or reassign independent members of Parliament without consulting them or the caucus of independent members of Parliament. Number two, Honorable Speaker, whether such reallocation or reassignment or reconstitution would violate the role of the Committee on Selection as outlined in Standing Order 73 and the principle of fair representation in committees. Honorable Speaker, if you give me 1 minute to explain. Honorable Speaker, we have 12 members of Parliament elected on an independent ticket to this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I'm one of them. I'm here not because of a political party, but I was brought here directly by the people of Marakwet West. Honorable Speaker, the practice in this House, when the first committees were nominated, was that we sat down, we formed a caucus. The caucus was formally recognized by yourself, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we sat down, we nominated members, our members to serve, to select committees in which they want to serve in. Honorable Speaker, we have one member, one independent member, Honorable Karole Ngeleche, who sits in the Committee of Selection of this House to protect the interest of the independents in this House. Honorable Speaker, I am not under the guidance or the leadership of Honorable Kimani Ichungwa, who is the leader of majority, because, Honorable Speaker, he is not my leader in this House. I am an independent member. I am not under the guidance or the supervision of Honorable Kimani Ichungwa. I am not under the guidance or supervision of the majority whip of this House, nor the minority whip. Honorable Speaker, therefore, I have no issue. I have been removed from the committee. I have no issue. But for posterity, Honorable Speaker, it is good you issue a ruling to protect the independent members of this House who are elected from their constituencies to serve the interests of their people before the floor of this House. Honorable Speaker, I would invite your ruling on those two fundamental issues so that the interests of independent members of this House are not subverted. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I've been in this parliament since the new constitution came into place, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it looks like the hangover of the old ways, the hangover of the old constitution has refused to go away from this country. Mr. Speaker, you've been a member of parliament for long. You remember the previous parliaments where you served before the new constitution, Mr. Speaker. The whips used to constitute committees, send it to the Speaker for approval, and it ends there. Under the new constitution, Mr. Speaker, a standing committee was formed called Selection Committee that deals with issues of placement in committees. And whatever proposal that the leadership of minority, majority, independents, and all kinds of caucuses that are in this House are looked into in that committee, Mr. Speaker. That committee has representation from all sectors. It has representation from the majority. It has representation from the minority. It has representation from the independents, the so-called quote-in-quote. It has representation from small parties, non-parliamentary parties. It has representation from, Mr. Speaker, all shades of representation in the House. What we bring before that committee that is chaired by the majority leader is proposals from different sectors. We bring proposals from the minority that, please, we are bringing proposals from the minority that this is how we want to constitute our committees. The majority brings, the independents have a voice there. It is that committee that makes a decision, Mr. Speaker, that go back and redo this, or we are in agreement, and if there is even a stalemate, people vote, Mr. Speaker, in that committee. But Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say, under this new constitution, the whole idea of independence needs to be relooked into, Mr. Speaker, in this country. How independent are independents in this House? We know when they come here, they align with who? These are the same independents, even though even now it is broad-based, after the new election, they joined the other side. Some of us were with us. They left us at night, not even during the day. I called them, I told them, where have you gone? They told me we are in Karen. Karen where? Where the new president is. Oh, I told them, we shall meet later. So we need to look into this matter of independence generally, Mr. Speaker. You cannot be independent when you want committees, but when there are serious, fundamental issues of the country, you are not independent. You are either with the minority or you are with the majority, Mr. Speaker. There are independents on our side here, like Fatuma Full Network, the woman rep for Migori. By all intent and purposes, she's an ODM member. She votes with us. She comes to our parliamentary group meeting. Shakil Shabir is independent. By all intent and purposes, he's an ODM member, Mr. Speaker. So just say your member did not get the lucrative committees that members are looking for. Either budget committee, transport committee, and everybody cannot get. But the whole issue of independence, Mr. Speaker, in your ruling, my plea to you now in your ruling, is that go broader, Mr. Speaker, and relook at the whole issue of independence. How independent are they, Mr. Speaker? With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't buttress what has already been said by the leader of minority, because indeed it is true that under the current dispensation, the political parties, both parliamentary and non-parliamentary political parties, in line with our standing orders, are represented in the selections committee, which I happen to chair. And decisions of that committee are not decisions of the chair, are decisions, as the leader of minority have said, decisions of the committee. By consensus, and where there is no consensus, we vote. And it is also true, Honorable Speaker, in line with our own standing orders, the independents in the House, and I don't want to question the independents myself, but the independents in the House are accorded an opportunity to sit in that selections committee. And indeed, when I listen to Honorable Timothy Toroitich, the issue he's raising is more is coached around a constitutional issue, but is more of a complaint of his relegation to another committee from the one he was serving in. But I can confirm, because we sat in that committee on Monday evening, the Honorable Timothy Toroitich, the committee he was in, he has been replaced by another independent member. Not a member from the majority or from the minority. It is another independent member who has taken his position. And in line with the proposals that we got before the committee, Honorable Speaker, from the representation of the independents in the selections committee. To Honorable Speaker, I engaged the Honorable Ngelechei, Honorable Karauri, who lead that caucus of independents. And when they appeared before the Honorable Ngelechei as a representative of the independents in the selections committee, submitted their list. Honorable Speaker, as expected, every other member in this House wants to be a member of the budget committee, transport, energy, education, water and irrigation. But it is not practical. And that is why what Honorable Junet says is true. The intent of the Constitution and our standing orders was to establish a selections committee that would then guide the House to settle members in committees, because it was expected that if what Timothy Toroitich says is true, or was to be true, that if a particular grouping brings their list before the selections committee, expressing their desire, what if all independents, we had 20 or 30 independent members, and they all expressed the desire to sit in the budget committee? Shall we have a budget committee where only independent members sit? Or for instance, now I think there are about 11 or 12 of them. If they all wanted to sit in the transport committee, would it mean then that that is the only committee they will all sit in? That was the import of our Constitution and our standing orders, that there will be established a selections committee that, like all other business of the House, the committee will guide in terms of settling and agreeing through consensus, and where there's no consensus, by a vote, which member sits in which committee, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I think, by and large, when I listen to the Honorable Toroitich, I have heard his disgruntlement and a complaint on the committee that he has been settled on by the selections committee. But I want to encourage the honorable member for Marakwet West. Focus more on serving the people of Marakwet West. And there are members who have served in this House and not served in any committee of the House. But they have done exemplary well in the assembly, in plenary, and in their constituencies in addressing matters that are of concern to the people that sent them to represent them. Otherwise, if you focus on disgruntlement on whether you sit in this or that committee, as I said yesterday, Honorable Speaker, we may not be able to satisfy everybody, and it's not practical to satisfy everybody in terms of their desires and needs as individuals. But let us use the opportunities that we are given to serve in whatever committee you are relegated to serve in, whether it is in Transport Committee, whether it is in the very powerful Members' Welfare Committee. That, Honorable Speaker, I said when in the last parliament I served in the Members' Welfare Committee, I have never served in a more powerful committee of this House than the Members' Welfare Committee. This is a committee that oversees the Parliamentary Service Commission, where the Speaker is the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission. There is no other committee of this House that can oversight, Mr. Speaker, other than the Members' Welfare Committee. And I am very proud of my time as a member of the Members' Welfare Committee, because, Honorable Speaker, you remember when you took over as a chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission, Bunge Tower had actually progressed in the last 2 years of the last regime because of the work that we put to make sure that we oversighted the Parliamentary Service Commission to ensure that members of Parliament who joined the 13th Assembly. And I must thank you, Honorable Speaker, because when you came in, you picked up from where the other commission had left and ensured that now members enjoy good facilities at Bunge Tower. And I want to ask the members who are joining the Members' Welfare Committee, keep the Speaker on his toes so that he can continue guiding the Parliamentary Service Commission to improve your welfare as members of Parliament. And that's why I say it is one of the most powerful committees of this House, Honorable Speaker. I was just engaging with my brother, Honorable Nimrod Mbai. I was telling him the Public Petitions Committee again, when we crafted this committee in the last Parliament, it is bound to be one of the best committees of this House, But let me say, these committees are as good as the leadership and as a membership. It is up to you, whichever committee you are put in, to make the best out of it, and also in the service to your constituents. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Niambia, I'll give you 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As you'll be making your ruling, it is very important that you listen to the voice of the Honorable Member who spoke without the committee or the committee notwithstanding. Because in the original, an analogy was very clear that the independent members need to be protected. Though in the end, as I listened to him, he failed to explain whether the representative of the independent members were in the selection committee that did the work. Somewhat, that's what he did not pronounce himself on. So that's an important place you'll have to check, so that as we protect their section, indeed, notwithstanding the committee that he has been given, it's important that continuously their place is protected. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Timothy, I don't need to go and think deeply on this. It's a very straightforward matter. For independent members, the standing orders, you've rightly said, have given you an opportunity to form a caucus, which can help you in prosecuting your interests at various levels in your performance of your duty. Number two, the Speaker ensured, by advising the majority-minority leaders, that you are represented as independents from your caucus on the selections committee, which you are, by none other than the distinguished lady from your own county, your county representative, Honorable Caroline Ngelechei. So you are not unrepresented. Number three, the standing orders are very clear, 174, that no member, and I repeat, no member, each member of this House must serve in one committee. From the reconstitution of committees that was brought to the House Business Committee chaired by the Speaker, and sitting members from both sides of the House, I was satisfied that there is not a single member of this House who has, each member out of all of you has a committee, at least one. As to quality of committees, that is not for the Speaker. I don't even know what quality in a committee means. What I know is that we have committees of the House in the standing orders that I participated with Julius Sunguli, the late Godana, former member from Nakuru called Bishop Kimani, the late Henry Obocha. We wrote these standing orders. Before then, this House had only 4 committees: public accounts, public investments, House business, and powers and privileges. There were no other committees. We created committees to make the House work better. So what I advise you, Honorable Kipchumba, go back to your representative in the selections committee. You heard Honorable Junaid say this is a moving target. Committees are dynamic in membership. You are there today, tomorrow you are moved to some other committee, subject, of course, to procedural issues being adhered to. So I don't see any issue for me to retreat and bring a ruling. It's as straightforward as that. Number three, I want also to advise you as a young member. Your prowess in your representation, debate, and legislation is not hinged on which committee you sit in. It has many variables. For over 30 years, I have been in Parliament. There is not a single parliamentary session that I served in more than one committee. By choice. Every time I was given more than one committee, I declined. I served only one committee at a time. For over 30 years, I have never chaired a parliamentary committee. The only time I now chair a committee is by virtue of the office I hold. That is House Business Committee. I have never presented myself to be elected as a chair or vice chair of any committee, because I was always guided by the belief that being a chair of a committee is cumbersome and was going to withhold my capacity to think, to debate, to work, and to represent my people. So I kept off from chairing any committee. But that Honorable Bukose holds a different view. That is entirely up to you. So Honorable Kipchumba, as you navigate in your first term, try your best to establish good PR with your colleagues, especially those you send to sit in those committees, so that they can represent you better, represent your interests, agitate for your interests, vote for your interests, and give you what you want. The Speaker has no capacity to place any member in any committee. He only has capacity to ensure that you cannot be committeeless. I think that helps you, Timothy, going forward.